In my first piece, I chose to choose the character Dr. Hatch. The sound I chose to create was one of mystery and mysteriousness. I also chose to do separate individual picking patterns at the beginning to show of how Dr. Hatch uses pieces to collect and pre-plan before he reveals his big ideas. Um, and he is what you would consider to be the villain of this novel, so I did more of darker minor tones, or at least the only ones that I knew on the guitar. I chose to make the beginning slower than the end because it shows how Dr. Hatch is patient to deliver his plans and set pieces forward. For example, he spent years to plan out his coup d'etat of Tuvalu, and he will use that as his base to store his bank funds, which he keeps in cash, and train Quentin to be potentially a future leader. For my second piece, I attempted to recreate Michael's storyline in the novel. So at the beginning, they're traveling into Mexico to see if the ranch is truly destroyed as the voice told them. Um, at first, they were in Daco, Texas, and Michael got confronted by multiple Hispanic gang members. Because of his rage and his anger, he built up enough energy to create the scars that are now on his arms. Um, After visiting the ranch, they traveled back to the United States to discover Gervasio, who then led them to the second ranch. So that's why at the beginning of the piece it is much darker and in a minor tone than the end. Because at the end they find the ranch and all their friends and their family, and they realize that everything is okay. The idea was to fool the Elgin to believe they were destroyed. As Chairman once said, misinformation was our best chance of survival. The third piece was directed toward the personality of Jack, one of the only members of the group, besides Ian, or Austin rather, that does not have a special ability or electrical power. Jack is a very tough guy who set himself in his ways after the loss of Wade, his childhood best friend, which he blamed the loss on himself. I used the changing keys to represent his change of mood and pace. For example, when he is at the destroyed ranch, he interrogates Ranger Elgin very seriously, but when he's with McKenna, he's still tough, but lightens his mood, which is what I attempted to convey by placing the high E back into the chord at the end of the piece. What I was trying to say is by just adjusting the pitch of the chord but keeping the chord the same, Jack is very tough-minded, and he's very set in his ways, but he's also willing to change based on who he's with. And the fourth and final piece that you're listening to is how Taylor is the rock. This is supposed to represent Taylor, and she's the rock that holds Michael in place. Usually a very positive attitude and brings Michael back down when it benefits the entire group. For example, when the gang interfered with Michael, he let out his fires. She said, "Michael, you're being selfish and foolish with your own emotions. You cannot show your powers like that to others," which brought him down to more of a baseline level, even though he was still very much angered at what he believed was the destruction of the ranch. Also, when the clan was deciding whether the plan to jailbreak the jewel at the very end of the story was worthwhile, she provided him her input through psychedelic powers so he didn't feel isolated, which helped him come to a rock-solid conclusion.